Hello there, and welcome to a new video for Age of Wonders 4. In this one, I got 10 advanced tips and tricks for the feudal culture. It's all about emphasizing where these guys are strong, what you can do to get the most out of your cultural background, and how to optimize your builds to your own satisfaction. Let's start out with number 1. I want to talk about how to utilize this stand together thing the best. So we have this system that feudal units gain more damage when they're standing next to a body. This is amazing, as this makes you really potent in the early game. Right from the get-go, you have a 20-person steroid. That's one thing. The other thing, though, is that every bonus in the game that relies on standing next to a body is automatically awesome for the feudals because, you know, it's their innate trademark move. So you can use either body and mind traits. For example, here I used Overwhelm Tactics for the crit chance, or you can use, instead of a mount, the Bulwark trait, which also gives you defensive stats for standing next to people. There's a lot of different options, some more obvious, some less obvious. To point out one of the less obvious ones, you can go here in the Tome of Beasts for Animal Kinship, which gives you adjacency bonuses when you're next to animals or cavalries. Since we have cavalry as a natural part of our armies, we already can tick off that box. But you also have the ability to pick up wolf mounts, which have another bonus, which gives them more damage when they're standing right next to somebody on a wolf mount as well. So you see, this goes places, and utilizing this does a great job for the feudal culture. With number 2, I want to go deeper into detail of the feudal lords system. So every hero in your army can have one of these titles until all 5 titles are spent. So you can have only one lord of each type. They boost either the income of a city as a governor quite stupidly, or you can use the Lord of War to have a little bit of movement point bonus whenever you kill a army, but I personally find that one a little bit better on paper than in practice, because, you know, only one banner receives that move point bonus, and the other banners that you pull around yourself are not getting that. So I'm not a too big fan of that one, except for the early game. But the other ones, the most amazing thing about these is, for one, we can boost the income another time by building a Lord's Manor. So here we gain not only the income, but also a doubled income from the governor. But the most awesome part, I personally think, is that you can swap around your lords as you see fit. So just founded a new frontier city? Well, maybe you want that food or production income governor down there to help these guys out for a while. You are highly flexible in your income, and basically every lord gives you the ability to boost the city whenever you need it, however you need it. And therefore I really like these, and everyone in their own regard, except for the Lord of War. I personally think he's a little bit overrated. Anywho, these guys are super powerful to boost your cities all over the board, but especially early game, you can do wonderful things with that. Number 3 is the next thing, which, well, emerges from the feudal lord system. You want those cities. Get your cities as quick as possible. And with this culture, it is even more important than with most cultures that you want to have at least 5 cities, ideally, so you have every lord at once, at least once, but 4 cities are pretty much the point where you want to end up when the early game ends. This party here, I'm a little bit late. Here I have the 4th city already, but that's not the point here. It's all about getting your cities quickly together so you have the full potential of those lords, and you have a really good time expanding with this faction anyways. More about that later. With number 4, I want to go over another point, and that's how amazingly well suited the feudal faction is to go all in early on warfare. You don't need to build all your early cities. It's easy to conquer at least one of these because you have an impressive early game roster. The archers, they might lack any special abilities, but they are tier 1 archers, so they are highly receptive for the regular unit enchantment shenanigans, and they also receive 20% bonus for standing right next to somebody. So therefore, their damage is on average a tad bit higher than the regular tier 1 archer, and you can easily boost that with low tier tomes like pyromancy, cryomancy. There's plenty of options to let these guys hit harder. And then you got the Peasant Pikemen, the cheapest tier 1 unit all over the board. Seriously, they really cost less than anybody else. They are spear units, so they always get to deal their damage, and if they survive long enough, they even promote to a tier 2 shield unit. So with these two guys alone, you have something to throw at your enemy and just wait until they are dead. You can do that really, really early on. Add in a Bannerman, which gives you the ability to boost the defenses and heal those guys and give them some extra morale, and you're good to go. You basically don't need anything else to conquer early game cities. Just one thing as a side note, you will lose people left and right. That's normal with this playstyle. It's nearly impossible to mitigate all the losses until you have at least a couple of defenders and such going. But you can and should dominate early game to get your cities quickly together because you are so well fit for that job. Number 5. Also, already talked a little bit about that, but this culture is amazingly good with any form of buffing. They have such a high synergy because of that innate trait alone. They have a 20% damage steroid. That means all the buffs are a little bit more potent on them than on other cultures which lack that trait. This alone is already a really, really amazing thing. And beyond that, well, the whole roster of them is a tad bit bland, but they are pretty good at what they're doing, and they are fairly resolute in their baseline. This gives you the ability to just add in whatever flavor you want. Want them to be quite the killers? Add in more damage. Want to be the tanky, supporty, morale shaving playstyle? Add in more resilience, and these guys become nearly unkillable. Either way, whatever buffing strategy you follow, the feudal faction fits in really decently, and that's an interesting part about them, which is not so true for for most other cultures, especially since you have also access to the signet of knighthood, which allows you to get that stand together bonus on everybody. So yeah, that goes places. Number 6. I want to talk about an interesting playstyle that I think you can do with this faction especially, and that's using a city as a weapon. I mean with that sometimes it really pays off to just build a city in a blank space between you and the enemy and build it up like crazy. Build all the things that you want there. Produce your units there. Protect especially the cities that are important for you. And then, when you're done with your warfare and you don't want that city anymore, you can just release it as a vassal city. So, when it's a vassal, the beautiful thing is the city is not really a problem of yours anymore. It will stand in the way, it will give you its income, and it's most importantly away from your city cap. By the way, one other important thing to note for the feudal culture, being one city over your cap does lower your income, but not in a way that it's impossible to play with it. I personally end up with these guys relatively often one city over my cap, especially with that tactic. You can just build it up until the war is over, so you have a troop printing machine directly on the front, and afterwards you can use it as a low cost income source that will sit there. It's pretty interesting what you can do with this strategy. I point this out for the feudals because the feudals have a stupidly good ability to produce food. They have the highest food income of all the cultures that I know of, and you can use this to be extremely grabby. Place that city in front of the city, grab all the land that you can, and then go into war from there. It's pretty interesting. Other cultures can do so as well, but with these guys you grow naturally into pretty annoying proportions. Number 7, I want to talk about the viability of a morale playstyle. The thing is, you have a lot of morale mechanics in your roster per se. I already skimmed it that the Bannerman has 10 morale bonus on his soothing standard. This is a lot. I mean, it has a high cooldown, but 10 morale is really, really a lot. As you see there, we are really close to high morale already with just that one buff alone. But it doesn't end here. We have also access to the knights, but not this city. And knights have the elusive trait of being at another city. No. They have the trait of inspiring killer, so they give you even more morale bonus when they kill stuff. And that opens up the playstyle of going into Revelry and Doom Herald, which are two amazing tomes for this kind of playstyle, as you can increase your morale gains with that one part, and you can start destroying the enemy morale with the other part. This is very, very synergistic playstyle with these fellas, because when you follow that, you also gain higher crit chance for your guys and a higher fumble chance for the enemy guys, and they also start fleeing. All these things are really, really good for you, and you can easily achieve that more easily than other cultures, because you also get to give your friendly units another little morale bonus if you want to, even per spell. So you have a lot of innate tools comparatively. So number 8 is another thing that's really important. Unlike other cultures, with a feudal roster, it's really hard to win the game alone. Other cultures, you can really do crank out more potential, whereas the feudal culture is lacking in that department out of several reasons. You have no multi-attacker tier 3 unit. The Dark Culture, for example, has a tier 3 unit with a AoE blast. These guys are really good at boosting the morale of your other dudes, but that's pretty much it. Your biggest attackers are in tier 1, your strongest offensive units are in tier 1, and in tier 2 you have the supporty stuff. That brings you to a pretty low damage profile in the mid and late game, because you either have buffed up your army to rely on T1 units, which is totally possible, or you will fall off. You can and should mitigate that by bringing outside forces. You can bring the Rally of the Lieges if you want to. You can bring in troops from Wonders, or of course, the Tome Library offers you plenty of opportunities. It's really important that you go for something as quick as possible, because I made the experience as soon as turn 50 to 60 is there, the base roster of the feudals needs some backup from outside to really keep going and keep staying awesome. But maybe I'm overlooking something here. So number 9, I want to talk about how to go with the economy of this culture, because the feudals are a little bit weird on that end. Because your major sales point, your major bonuses come all from food production. You have a special province improvement that gives you food production in form of the levy camp, gives you more food per farm, and you have lots of food on your buildings and food. So what to do with that food, you might ask yourself. It's quite simple. For one part, it allows you to grow your cities extremely fast. That makes you highly compatible for an expansionistic playstyle, because you have your hands on the provinces faster than other people. And the interesting part about that is you can grow with that, but you don't need to. You don't need to grab provinces seriously. They cost you morale at some point, city stability at some point. So that means with this playstyle, your economy should be focused around grabbing the land that you want with your city, and then build the buildings that your economy needs afterwards, and pay close attention to not overgrowing your cities, because with that kind of food production that you can muster, it easily can happen that you claim too many provinces and your city stability goes negative. This is something you should always try to prevent. And the interesting part here is that you can set up the cities that you can afford and then just decide what kind of production you need. That goes pretty powerful, since you can also claim all the interesting territory around you as well faster than other people. So Altogether, that means you have no natural resource income bonus except for a little bit of mana from your cultural buildings. Most interestingly enough, you have a little bit of that in the clergy commons. You have some mana, and in the tithe shrine you have that as well. But apart from that, it's totally up to you what you want to fill the city with. The food income will always attract new population, and therefore you can decide what kind of provinces you build and what kind of focus you want to put into the city, or you just focus on the buildings. It's pretty interesting. So, number 10 goes right into what I was talking about before. You are really good in playing with vassals because you can only maintain so many cities. You are naturally bound a little bit to order. That means, however you play, you have always access to these parts here, and you also can go for more whispering stones, therefore easier, and that means you have your goal should be to have a lot of cities, as many as possible, and vassalize everything left and right around you, and grow accordingly. And whenever you have enough Imperium to claim another city, you can do so. If you should aim for the expansion victory, because you need to occupy a certain amount of provinces. If not, well, the vassalization of people does give you a nice amount of income. It's always nice to have that, and due to the innate affinity to that, you can pick in the cultural traits, stuff like the trait which gives you 20% more bonus for vassals. It's highly synergistic because you want to grab a lot of land anyways. And if you happen to play with order tomes, this whole thing goes really places. So altogether, try to be aggressive and expansionistic with these guys, and vassalization of cities around you is also part of the plan, especially good for conquered enemies to just release the cities as vassals, because this way you earn money from them, you don't have the micromanagement, and you have no pressure on your city cap. That's that. And the best part about it is, when you happen to want one of your vassals on your own, you can always integrate those guys later on. So it's an absolute benefit for these guys. And yeah, I hope this was helpful for you. Feel free to leave me your comments down below, because I always know you cannot say everything about a culture in just 10 tips and tricks, and therefore I'd be happy to hear from you. Thumbs up and subscriptions are wildly appreciated. There is an entire playlist of Age of Wonders 4 info videos. If you'd like to check them out, I'd be very, very happy. Either way, thanks for watching this video and have a great day.